The upcoming TV remake of Twilight has the potential to be better than the movies, but with just one change related to the Cullen family, it will already be an improvement over the saga. Despite its flaws, the success and impact of the Twilight novels and their movie adaptations can't be denied. Twilight brought a world where humans, vampires, and werewolves coexist, but what made it stand out from similar works are the changes made to the vampires and werewolves. The Twilight novels became a cultural phenomenon, and it got even bigger with their movie adaptations. Twilight focuses on the romance between human Bella Swan, played by Kristen Stewart, and vampire Edward Cullen, Robert Pattinson, along with the many problems and obstacles they must face so they can be together. The Twilight saga ended in 2012 with the second part of Breaking Dawn, and after the novels expanded with a gender-bent version and a retelling of the first novel from Edward's perspective, it's getting an animated TV remake. Although the Twilight TV show is doomed to repeat one big mistake, it could be better than the movies with one key Cullen change: the Twilight saga skipped most of the Cullens' backstories. The Cullen stories were either ignored or briefly shown. Throughout the Twilight saga, the audience learns everything about vampires, the Cullens, and the werewolves at the same time as Bella. However, and as happens with all books adapted to film, many stories, scenes, characters, and details had to be left aside. Among them were most of the backstories of the Cullens, and those that were included were only mentioned or shown briefly. First was Carlisle, Peter Facinelli, whose father, an Anglican pastor, led a group that sought out and killed evil in their community. This means they killed people they considered to be witches, vampires, or werewolves, and one day, Carlisle found a group of vampires living in the sewers. Carlisle led an attack against them but was bitten, transforming into a vampire. Many years later, once he had become a doctor, Carlisle met Edward, who was dying of Spanish influenza, so he saved him by turning him into a vampire after Edward's mother begged him to save her son. Carlisle met Esme when he treated her after breaking her leg when she was a teenager. Years later, after Esme's baby died 2 days after being born, she jumped off a cliff and was believed to be dead. Carlisle recognized her and noticed she was still alive, so he saved her by turning her into a vampire. Then came Rosalie, who Carlisle found nearly dead after she was sexually assaulted by her drunk fiancé and his friends, and like Edward and Esme, he saved her by turning her. Next was Emmett, who Rosalie found after he was attacked by a black bear and asked Carlisle to save him. Alice was turned by a vampire friend of hers to protect her when she had a vision of James going after her, and Jasper was turned by a vampire named Maria, who wanted him to lead her army of vampires. The only backstories shown in the Twilight saga are those of Edward, Rosalie, and Jasper, while the rest were only mentioned and quickly forgotten. Midnight Sun gives the Twilight show the perfect chance to explore the Cullens' backstory. Midnight Sun will make a big difference in the Twilight TV remake. Edward, Robert Pattinson, looking on menacingly outside school in Twilight, 2008. The upcoming Twilight TV remake is interesting for a couple of reasons. First off, it's an animated series, which can make it a lot easier for the show to bring to life the most unbelievable parts of the story that the live-action movies couldn't quite pull off. Second, the Twilight TV show will adapt Midnight Sun, the novel that retells the first book but from Edward's perspective. This offers answers to some of the biggest questions and gaps in Twilight, but it also gives the show a couple of opportunities that the movies couldn't have done. As it was told from Bella's perspective, the Twilight saga couldn't spend enough time with the Cullens, but this is fixed when told from Edward's point of view. Thanks to Midnight Sun, the Twilight TV show can better explore Edward's dynamic with his family, especially Alice, and thanks to this, it's easier to include a look at their backstories. Once more, the show's animated format comes in handy for this, as stories like Emmett's can be better achieved through animation. Could there ever be a Twilight prequel? Twilight could expand in much better ways. Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart as Edward Cullen and Bella Swan at the forefront of the Cullen family in the cropped Twilight New Moon poster. Of course, the best way to properly explore the backstories of all the Cullens, except Bella. She already has a full saga, is a prequel. However, it's unlikely the world of Twilight could get one. The Twilight books have exhausted every possible way of expanding already, unless Stephenie Meyer decided to go many years back and write a prequel novel or series. In other media, it's unlikely there could be a prequel, although, if the animated show succeeds, there could be some hope for other types of expansions. What's more likely, however, is the Twilight TV show dedicating one episode or more to exploring the Cullens' backstories. Again, what makes this possible is that the story is being told through Edward's perspective this time. By featuring their backstories, the Twilight TV show would already be a big improvement over the movies and would cover a lot more.